Alright everyone, Beta 4.4 v5 has officially been released today, and as expected, there are several interesting changes that we need to go over together. As always, all of the information covered in this video comes from a reliable source, GachaBase. But before we jump into the main discussion, running out of Stellar Jade and Honkai starrail? Don't worry, there's a more budget-friendly solution. Now you can top up in-game safely, quickly, and at a lower price through U7 Buy. And it's not just Honkai starrail, other games are available too, all in one place. Still not sure? No problem. You can check U7 Buy's reviews directly on Trustpilot, so it's transparent and trustworthy. For comparison, 80 oniric shards cost around $100 in the official store, but on U7 Buy, it's much cheaper. The process is also instant. Just select your server, enter your UID, and the balance is delivered straight to your account, no hassle. Don't forget to use code BOOM for a 5% discount. Click the link in my description or pinned comment to visit U7 Buy. Alright, let's get started. This time, we'll be covering something that many players have been eagerly waiting for: every change made to Himeko Nova, Ren Tusaka, and Gilgamesh in Beta 4.4 v5. As I mentioned earlier, Beta 4.4 v5 officially went live today. This is also the final beta phase before the game moves into the creator experience stage. Historically, once creator experience begins, the only remaining changes are usually wording adjustments rather than gameplay or balance updates. Because of that, V5 is generally considered the final reference point for evaluating how strong a character will be when they're officially released. Interestingly, the number of changes in V5 is actually quite small. Compared to Beta V4, which introduced a large number of adjustments, V5 focuses mostly on minor tweaks along with a few small buffs. So without further ado, let's begin with Himeko Nova. In Beta 4.4 v5, Himeko Nova only received 3 changes. These consist of 1 adjustment to her ultimate and 2 buffs to her eidolons. Overall, it's a much lighter update compared to previous beta versions. Let's start with her ultimate, Orbital Annihilation Pulse. The adjustment made here is actually quite simple. It only changes the requirement for triggering the additional fire damage instances. Previously, the bonus damage could activate as long as Himeko Nova had at least 1 point of source energy. In Beta V5, that condition has been slightly changed. Now, the additional damage only activates when source energy is greater than 1. In other words, having exactly 1 source energy is no longer enough. You'll now need more than 1 point to trigger the extra damage. There are absolutely no changes to the ultimate's damage multipliers. Every damage value remains identical to Beta V4. So from a pure damage perspective, her ultimate performs exactly the same as before. Next, let's move on to her eidolons. 2 of them received adjustments, Eidolon 2 and Eidolon 6. Let's begin with Eidolon 2. The good news is that this eidolon received a nice buff. Previously, it increased the damage of Himeko Nova's ultimate and assist skill to 124% of their original damage. In Beta V5, that multiplier has been increased to 130%. It's not an enormous increase, but it's still a welcome improvement for players planning to invest into her eidolons. Next is Eidolon 6. This one also received a buff. The 20% type residential PEN effect remains completely unchanged. However, the assist skill portion has been strengthened. Now, whenever an ally uses an assist skill, the damage of that assist skill is increased by 75%. Previously, that bonus was only 60%. And those are all of Himeko Nova's changes in Beta 4.4 v5. Looking at everything together, it's clear that Himeko Nova's performance at E0 is virtually unchanged compared to Beta V4. The only meaningful buffs were directed toward her eidolons, meaning players who plan to use her at E0 should expect essentially the same performance as before. Now let's move on to our second character, Ren Tusaka. Just like Himeko Nova, Ren only received 2 changes in Beta V5. These adjustments affect her skill and one of her major traces. Let's start with her skill. The change here is actually nothing more than a wording adjustment. There are no mechanical changes, no multiplier adjustments, and no differences in how the skill functions. In other words, its overall damage output remains exactly the same as it was in Beta V4. Next, let's look at Ren's first major trace. Previously, this trace increased her attack by 150% while also granting 15% all-type respen. In Beta V5, that effect has been slightly modified. Instead of granting all-type respen, it now provides quantum respen. At first glance, this may seem like a nerf because the effect has become more specialized. However, when we consider Ren's intended role, the practical impact is almost non-existent. The reason is simple. Ren herself is a quantum character, and her primary partner, Archer, is also a quantum character. Now let's move on to the final character, Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh also received just 2 changes in Beta V5. These affect his skill and his talent. Let's begin with his skill. Interestingly, there are no gameplay changes whatsoever. The mechanics remain the same. The damage multipliers remain the same. The only difference is its name. Previously, the skill was called King's Treasure. It has now officially been renamed to Gate of Babylon. The more interesting change comes from his talent. More specifically, his second talent, the one that directly synergizes with Saber. After receiving a fairly significant nerf in a previous beta version, this talent has finally been buffed again. The joint follow-up attack now deals damage equal to 400% of Gilgamesh's attack and 600% of Saber's attack. Previously, those values had been reduced to only 300% and 400%, respectively. In other words, the damage multipliers have now been restored to their Beta V2 values. And those are all of the changes introduced in Beta 4.4 V5. Looking at the update as a whole, it's clear that this phase focuses primarily on final balance tuning rather than major redesigns. Overall, the strength of all 3 characters remains almost identical to what we saw in Beta V4. Since this is the final beta before creator experience, it's highly unlikely that we'll see any more significant gameplay adjustments before their official release. So, what do you think about the Beta 4.4 V5 changes? Are you satisfied with the buffs Himeko Nova and Gilgamesh received? Or were you hoping for a few more adjustments before launch? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, we've reached the end of today's discussion. Thank you all so much for watching this video all the way to the end. Don't forget to share it with your fellow Honkai starrail players so they can stay up to date with the latest information as well. Your support through likes and subscriptions means a lot and helps this channel continue creating informative content in the future. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next discussion.